Hello everyone, this is Cobalt. This is the next video in my character analysis series for Brawlhalla. Stick around till the end to hear about entering the giveaway to win community colors, emotes, weapon skins, sidekicks, avatars, or even the battle pass, and voting for the next legends. And if you want to skip all this and get straight into the information, there's a timestamp in the description, and don't forget to subscribe so you can keep up with the release of your favorite legend. In these analyses, I wanted to focus solely on the character's signatures. Light attack combos are covered much more in depth than I ever could elsewhere and function pseudo-comparably for all characters of that weapon class. So I'm not going to be discussing the general neutral of the character with their weapons unless it pertains in some way to their signatures. Firstly, I want to give clear descriptions of the terminology I'll be using. Startup frames are the amount of frames that happen after a move has begun until the first hitbox of the move becomes active. Active frames are the duration of frames that the move contains hitboxes that can collide with your opponent. FAF, or First Actionable Frame, is the first frame available where your character is able to move again after the move has been started. For all of this data, I use the character's jump to display the first actionable frame. Lastly, On Miss refers to the move not connecting with an opponent, and On Hit refers to the move making contact with an opponent. I'm going to be doing my analysis today on the next voted in legend, Sir Roland. Roland defeated the Jade Knight in his youth, catching a glimpse of Hypernia and Valhalla at the same time. He had many battles over the next 50 years, though he never lost. Eventually he was on his deathbed, and Hypernia killed him herself so he could die in battle to make it to Valhalla with a warrior's death. Roland's weapons are Rocket Lance and Sword. Roland hasn't seen many competitive results recently, so what's the cause of this? He has a stat indicative of a tanky character with 5 attack, 5 dexterity, 8 defense, and 4 speed. Pretty slow and about average amounts of power, but really high defense. His weapons are both alright in the metagame right now, so is it his stats that make him less competitively viable, or is it his signatures that make him struggle? Well, let's find out. Let's start with his Rocket Lance. Rocket Lance side sig has 18 frames of startup, active frames from 19 to 29, and 41 to 52 with an FAF of 71. It functions differently on miss than it does on hit. Should the move make contact, the initial hit cancels and converts into the second immediately. The new frame data if the move connects on the first frame yields active frames from 19 and 31 to 42 with a new FAF of 61. Roland plunges his lance forward before shifting it upwards for a second strike with an energy sword. This move has average startup and pretty high FAF. It has a decent amount of active frames and has the potential to catch jumping opponents with the second hit. It offers a dual coverage directly in front of him as well as above, which has the potential to offer him some good utility, but thanks to its lengthy duration, it's pretty punishable sig on miss. It does have good hitboxes though. Rocket Lance neutral sig has 24 frames of startup, active frames from 25 to 52 with an FAF of 70. It functions the same on miss as it does on hit. Roland jumps backwards into the air before charging his Rocket Lance forward with an energy horse projected from it for several frames. This sig punishes opponents jumping really well and those recovering high. It has high startup and FAF thanks to its movement and has some good utility on his kit. Roland is nearly grounded when he's able to move again, so this move can be punished pretty hard if you miss it. Its end lag isn't as bad as I thought it was going to be, but it's still pretty punishable. Not a bad sig, just covers a specific area above him. Rocket Lance down sig has 20 frames of startup, active frames from 21 to 27 with an FAF of 56. It functions the same on miss as it does on hit. Roland swings his Rocket Lance around him, summoning a warrior behind him made of energy and slices forward. The sig has pretty decent range in front of him, offering coverage a good distance away. It can punish opponents effectively. It has average frame data in all respects, and Roland remains stationary throughout the duration of this sig. It has a pretty high FAF, a high amount of end lag, and can be punished pretty hard should you miss. It can be an effective sig at punishing charging opponents, and thanks to its range you can out-prioritize a plethora of moves. Next up is his sword. Sword side sig has 23 frames of startup, active frames from 24 to 32 and 44 to 55 with an FAF of 70. It functions the same on miss as it does on hit. Roland swings his sword in front of him with 2 consecutive swings. The sig is pretty poor in terms of its frame data, though its end lag isn't bad. The first swing yields large circular hitboxes directly in front of him, and the second is a stab with hitboxes that extend directly in front of Roland. The sig is good for spacing and keeping opponents at a distance thanks to its large disjoint, though it's really primarily useful as a punish option for approaching opponents thanks to its disjointed hitboxes that extend away from him. Sword neutral sig has 22 frames of startup, active frames from 23 to 27 with an FAF of 51. It functions the same on miss as it does on hit. Roland swings his sword diagonally upward. The SIG has above average startup but below average FAF. The range on this move, dude, holy hell, this move is huge. The hitboxes on it go so far into the air. It doesn't have very many active frames, however, but with the range this move has, you may not need them. It has excellent coverage, catching jumping opponents as well as those attempting to recover high. Challenging this move in the air would be difficult due to its enormous hitboxes, and I think it's a solid SIG on his kit despite its slightly lower startup. Sword down SIG has 17 frames of startup, active frames from 18 to 32 with an FAF of 53. It functions the same on miss as it does on hit. Roland plunges his sword into the ground and creates 4 energy-like blades that erupt from the ground in front of him. It has slightly below average startup and FAF and a decent amount of active frames. It has good coverage immediately in front of him and can punish opponents attempting to charge at Roland thanks to its reasonable startup. It's the fastest SIG on his kit in terms of frame data, believe it or not. I think that it has some solid coverage on his kit and utility, and honestly, that's not something that I had expected to say about this SIG. So overall, his SIGs are a bit above average in terms of their frame data. They're kind of slow in terms of their startup, but the FAF on a few of them is okay, it's not terrible. He doesn't have any really fast SIGs, and I think that a lot of characters do that help them out a lot in certain situations. I think that his SIGs have okay synergy on his kit and can be used effectively if used well with the appropriate dodge reads. Side light neutral dodge read into side SIG on sword, for instance. His SIGs have a good amount of coverage to them, offering him a variety of ranges on each of his SIGs on each of his weapons, not to mention his dual coverage on his rocket lance side SIG. I think he can struggle a bit given both his stat spread and his slightly slower signatures, which I think are likely the causes as to why we haven't seen him in competitive play very frequently. I don't think that he will likely see much play if nothing changes on him, and save for a large frame data change to some of his SIGs, I don't think that they'll help him out much. Additionally, I really like his King Knight skin from Shovel Knight. Today's code to put down in the comments is GUTS, along with your Twitter handle, or social media of your preference, and if you get that reference, I appreciate it. Also, check out my Twitch channel. I'll be streaming tomorrow night and playing with viewers, so come say hello. The link to my channel will be in the description down below. Tune in tomorrow for coverage on the highest voted legend from this week. Comment to vote for next week's 5 legends. I'll be continuing this once a day, Monday through Friday, over the next 10 weeks until all 50 legends are covered. So, thanks for joining me on this ride. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss the release of your favorite legend, and hope to see you back for the next one. Once again, I'm Cobalt, and thanks for watching.